The multi-grip bar or Swiss bar is a great alternative to regular bench pressing because for a lot of people, it's easier on the shoulder. And if you've been spending a long time pressing with a straight bar, then getting it as this double overhand position can be really handy for extending the longevity of your shoulders. But aside from that, you get some different sort of stimulus. Like we get still the same usual suspects of chest, shoulders, and triceps involved in the press, but you get to spread that a bit more evenly. So we do notice that right away, you'll get more shoulder and tricep in the neutral grip press. You might even get a little bit more chest in some ways because typically, because of the hand position, we get a longer range of motion, especially with a camber in the bar, which is this dip. So not all bars are built with it, but a lot of them are. So, and this bar has one. So this is something that you might notice is that once you transfer that back to regular pressing, you might actually find regular pressing a little bit easier in some ways. So right away, the thing that we got to watch out for is that because of the dip in this bar, and again, not all bars have it. So if your bar doesn't have this little dip, then ignore this. But if you do, you might need to flip the bar over and make sure that the grips are aligned in the right direction, which is either palms facing or palms like 45-ish, almost facing, which is going to allow us to get into a good position in the bottom. If not, they're going to be kind of in this supinated position, which is kind of weird. It'll feel weird. So just something to watch out for when you are setting this up is make sure that the grips are facing the right direction. Also, depending on the weight of the bar, it's going to feel more or less unstable. So if it's a little bit of a lighter bar, like this one's 45, but some of them are built to be like 25, 30 pounds. And so that's going to feel very odd in the hand. So you're going to have to get used to the balance of it. Just make sure that you are grabbing in the center of the handle to make sure that you're not just weighted off to one side, because then you're going to feel it tipping the wrist in one direction or the other. So just a couple of quick tips. When you are setting this up, like we talked about, we got to make sure the bar is flipped and facing the ceiling. So you can do that either before you lie down or once you have. Then we still want to apply the same sort of key characteristics of a regular bench. If you're not sure about that, then I do have a video on that. But things to watch out for this setup is that we're going to set this up with the widest possible handles, which is this neutral grip, which means that we got a dip in the middle, which is going to extend the range of your press. So in this case, we're going through the same key fundamentals of our regular bench, which is making sure that we're driving our feet into the ground, we're driving ourselves into the bench. So I think about it like trying to drive my shoulders up the bench, using the bench to grab my shoulders and drive up my chest. And then from there, I'm going to pull the bar out over the chest. Keeping my chest out, I'm going to pull the bar down, and then I'll press it back up towards the ceiling. Because of this dip in the bar, it does extend my range of motion. So it does mean that I get a little bit more of a pec stretch at the bottom. So this, as a whole, may feel better or just different. And it might involve different musculature than you would typically get on the bench. So you might find that you get a little bit more pec at the bottom. The thing that we have to watch out for with this palms facing position is that we still want to keep the elbow somewhat close to the body. Doesn't need to be tucked in, but we want to make sure that the elbow stays under the wrist. So unlike the regular bench where we can allow ourselves to flare the elbows, you're going to keep the elbows tucked slightly and then still press back up to this. Things do feel a little bit different when you do have these closer handles. So in this case, the closer we get, the more tricep we get involved. The wider we are, the more balance there will be between pec, shoulder, and tricep. So as we get into the closer grip handles, which if you're doing any sort of close grip bench, this type of bar can be a real lifesaver because it's way easier on the wrist. We're still going to make sure to grab towards the center of the handle. And in this case, we're keeping the elbows much more tucked, which as a whole will allow you to feel the triceps for a lot longer, well, for much more of the movement than you typically would with a straight bar. Because on a straight bar, typically the elbows will flare a little bit at one point. We start to get a lot of wrist torque. So keeping the elbows close with that little bit of angle on the grip can go a long way. So the rest of the pieces, as far as the bench, are the same. So we're still making sure that we're keeping our chest out and we're driving the shoulders away from the ears, the entire bench. And if we do that, we should have a good press. All right, hope that helps. Good luck.